Welcome to our demo for functional testing. And we'll get started in a few. So we'll just wait for some more attendees. In the meantime, too, as well, the chat is also available. So if you want to communicate with us during the webinar and speak about the different features, if you have any questions about anything that's going on, make sure you use the chat or the Q&A option as well. And if you are using the chat, make sure that you change from panelists to all panelists and attendees so that everybody can see the questions you ask or the comments you make, so that if someone wants to resonate with something that you wrote, and for everybody to have the visibility of what's going on, definitely suggest you writing it in panelists and attendees as well. So I'll go ahead and write a message to everybody. And where's everybody from? If you don't mind writing that in the chat. Okay, we have North Carolina, Chicago, Arizona. Nice. So lots of people from the States and a couple from Tel Aviv too. Sweet. All right, so let me get started and pull up our slides as well. Awesome. So let me see what time it is. Okay, we can wait another minute or so. Let's go back and check out the chat. So you have Tel Aviv, Ukraine, and as well too, this is obviously speaking about functional testing and development as well. So either if you're new to development or if you are someone that has lots of experience as well, this demo is definitely going to be able to speak to you in so many different levels. So we'll go ahead and get started, and I'll introduce myself. So again, welcome to the live demo for functional testing. My name is Joshua Alphonse. I'm a developer advocate at Velo by Wix. I'm based out of New York, and I'm also a full stack developer and music producer. So if you want to ever get in contact with me and ask any questions about Velo, want to learn about our development community, and then also, just talk about maybe even just music, reach out to me on LinkedIn and Twitter. I'm available there as well. And we also have in the chat Meredith Hassett, who's my counterpart as well, that will be helping answer any other questions about functional testing. Meredith is also a developer advocate in San Francisco, and she'll be able to answer any questions we have in the chat. And then also, if you have any questions that you want to say towards the end, feel free, and we'll be able to answer them for you. So we're here about functional testing, and let's kind of go over the features and what functional testing offers you as developers. So traditionally, before we had this feature for functional testing, developers were not able to test their backend code seamlessly without having to leave the editor or having to use their developer console from their browser while in preview mode. Well, now with functional testing, you're able to trigger and test your backend functions straight from the code panel itself. So again, you're not leaving the workflow that you're in. You're actually still increasing the velocity of how you're developing because you could test all those functions from the backend straight into the editor itself. So you'll still be able to use the code panel, the editor, and switch between preview mode and using the external tools that you have there. So you can click the play icon. So you might be familiar with the play icon in other IDEs, but for our instance here, the play icon will help actually open up the testing environment, as you can see from this GIF that's playing here. And you're actually able to test that function that you created. Another great feature as well is that you can set parameters if needed, and you'll also be able to run and display those functions and those responses right there within the editor. So again, you're maximizing your workflow here. You don't have to go to preview mode and then back again to the editor itself. You'll be able to do everything all within one space. And that's the beauty of it. So before we jump in about how to actually use this function or use this feature here, we're going to look at what that traditional or that old way was beforehand, and then show you how much easier it is now to use the functional testing feature that we have. So let me just swipe right over. Okay. So here is a demo website. And this is actually on the classic editor. And we'll actually jump in again a bit more on how to use this on editor X or any other type of editor. So you can see here from the code that we have here, it's actually fairly simple. You want to use your functional testing with export functions as well. And even for just this traditional way of testing your functions out, you want to make sure you're using export functions. So just simply console logging a multiplication for two different numbers that are here. Right. So if I had to go and test this from my backend or my front end, I'd have to go and click preview mode and just to see the log and just to test it. Now, this could be really annoying when you have to have a really complex site with lots of code and you're trying to search for something. Now you don't have to go and look for all those different functions that you're creating. You'll just be able to click the play button. But for the traditional way, we go to preview mode. You see I have it logged there. So I have a button as well. This button is connected to, again, actually, let me go back. This button is connected to our event here for handling this button click. So you can see from the properties panel, I have our on click for button number 1, which is for multiplication. And then we're logging our equation here. And we'll go straight to preview mode. So once I go and click this, you'll see my multiplication and even another response I have from the back end. Now, this isn't really the best way to keep testing things back and forth. Now, imagine if I was calling an API or even just logging some more user information from something. This could just be really annoying going back and forth just to make sure I have the right data that I need. Now, with the new way, there's a few other considerations to take up as well of how we're using this functional testing feature. And we'll jump into those right now. So a few considerations, and we'll go over this as we jump into the demo of this new feature. You can only test this with the functional testing feature. You can only test functions located in the JavaScript folder, or you can also only test functions that are of the file type for the JavaScript web module that allows you to export those functions to the front end. When testing code that interacts with the database collections, it's not associated with the Wix app. You'll be working with data in the sandbox mode. So basically, we have another example that will show you about how to actually test those responses you have from your content collections. So you have to make sure that you just have to keep in mind that with the data that's being tested is not what's going to be live on your site, just what you have on sandbox mode, because again, this is just testing and we're not using any of that live data. The output you do see on the test tab is the same output that you would have on the developer console. So we're not necessarily taking away that same experience that you have from the developer console. We're just actually enhancing it because you'll still be able to test out those same functions and have that same kind of layout that you're used to when you're using a developer console. So let's jump right into things. So we'll leave this classic editor example and we'll go straight to editor X. So as you know, you can use Velo in editor X, and of course, the functional testing feature is available as well. So let's head over to the backend. Okay, we'll head over to our backend as well, and let's start out with our example of using a content collection. So as I just mentioned beforehand, if you're using a content collection, you just have to keep in mind that what you'll be testing with the functional testing feature is whatever you have in Sandbox. So if I go straight to my database for a sec, go to cars. This is a car site on editor X. We'll open this up. So just two different fields inside of this collection. We have the title, which would be the name of the car. And then also if the car is a premium, right? So we have Volvo, Audi, BMW, really nice cars. So this is all stored in our collection and it's currently in Sandbox. Now, as you can see here, our functional testing feature doesn't require us to activated by clicking any type of button or installing anything. It's already built in, ready to go on both editors, available to you all. And you'll be able to combine this with all of our different APIs when you're testing these functions, especially really useful when you're testing out any data that you're querying from a collection that you do have. So for this instance here, just to go over this code, we're actually querying our cars collection and finding out if the car is premium or not. So let's go out and test this out. And you can always move up and down your IDE and retract it as you like. And we'll go ahead and click the play button. So again, the play button initiates the testing. So let's go ahead and click play. So you get set up with this new window that's here. And don't worry, it doesn't close off your tab for where you were working with your code. It actually just opens up another tab here for your testing for that specific file. So on the left side, you'll be able to set your different parameters in JSON if that's how you'd like to test. And on the right, this is where you actually get your results or your output of what you're running. So I wanted to be able to see the cars that I have inside of my collection. Let's go ahead and run. So once I click run, you'll see the steps that it's taking to give me our results, returned with null, and it looks like we have an error. So the car collection does not exist, it's saying. You cannot work with a collection using the data API before it's created in the editor. So when I see that error, I'm thinking to myself, hey, I already have this collection. I've definitely made it before. I go back to the databases and media, see I have cars. And luckily enough, with this functional testing feature, we're able to go back to our code and it can direct us and lead us to where this error is in our code as we're testing it within the editor itself. So it says I can go check out get premium brands on line 8, and it'll bring me back to my file and I can go and look at what it is that's making my test not work. So I know it's telling us line 8, and that's what we're getting that error. That's how we're capturing that error. But again, back to that error that we have here, the car collection does not exist. Odd. So if I go back to my code and look at our export function, again, remember that export functions are the only things that are going to work with this functional testing feature. If I go back to my export function and I look at the first line of my that function here, and I'm looking at const results equals await wixdata.query car. So that's not the name of my collection. My collection is actually named cars. So we see here, it says cars. And if I go back to edit, just to double check again, you'll see that the ID of my collection is set to cars, lowercase c. And I'm able to see my site contents because of the permissions I have. So of course, remember with data, you have to make sure that you have the certain permissions available if you want to test, but of course you're the admin, so you won't really have too much trouble with that. So let's go and edit our cars collection. And let's see what our results look like by pressing the play button. You can even clear out your console. So notice how I'm going back and forth. This tab is still open and it saves my last output. But if I don't want to see this anymore, and I have too much going on, I can always clear our output with this trash can on the right side. And now we have a clean slate, and let's click run. So again, we'll wait for these functions to happen. And we'll see here, get premium brands.js. That was our file that we had created on the side. And it returned with, has an array of five different vehicles. Let's check it out. So here we have our Volvo. Our Volvo is premium, right? Then again, inside of the same array, we have our Audi, our BMW, our Mercedes, and our Nissan. So all of the premium cars that we had in our collection, because of this function, we were able to find out what cars equaled, mark the premium field as true. And that field was a Boolean type of Boolean. So we're able to use the .eq function as well to find out if that car was premium or not. So again, I can always go back and clear out my console, run it again, keep testing over and over and over. I can even set parameters as well on the left side here of the testing tool. and I can go and check out everything I want. So the more fields that I do add, the more logic that I have in my function to get the results that I want, I'll be able to see those when I test the function by pressing the play button and then click and run right after. Great. So this is when you're working with collections, but what about just some of the little things, right? So let's go over to another one, another file here. This is just a random web module here that we have. So again, let's start out with something simple like hello. So we'll do export function hello. Oh, sorry, I have problems with my keyboard. Export function hello. So now we have our hello, and let's just do console.log, and we'll just put in here hello. Cool. So you see, as I created this export function, the play button has already appeared on that first line. So we already have our console log that's there, and there's no need for us to set a parameter. So let's just run, and you'll see my message is here. And it will bring me back again to the line of where I have this message, line number 2, console log. So it's really useful if I want to find out exactly, put a place marker on where these tests are coming up in our code. So let's say we want to have another function where we're setting some type of parameter. So we can write one export function, and we do multiply, since we clearly like multiplication. I'm sorry, my keyboard just writes O's really weird. So we'll see. And then in here, we'll have our factor1, factor2, and these are just two different factors that we're going to be multiplying to one another. So we do console.log. So we have our console.log, and then we'll just say, we'll put another message like, hey Velo. Okay. So we'll just return factor1, and we'll multiply that by factor2. Cool. Solid. So we have our function ready to go. And again, you'll see on line number 6, we have our play button that's appeared and ready to go. So let's play. And you'll see, again, our console still here with our old tests. Let's just clear it out, just have a clean slate. And then you'll see on the left side, we have some differences there here. Because we've set those parameters already in our export function, they appear here on the left side, and they come up as the value of null. But let's give these factors some numbers to work with. So we do, let's say we want to find out 5 and 6. All right, let's go with those two numbers. If we run our function, you'll see that we got our response for hey Velo from line 7, and we've also returned 30, which is 5 times 6. All right, so you're able to go back and forth and add these different parameters into your code, so you can properly get the responses that you're looking for. So let's just clear out our console for the next example that we do have as well. So let's just say you want to look for like the sum destructured, right? And again, this varies from very beginner examples to other examples that are more advanced as well. So you can always test out as many different things. So there might not be a debugger, but this is a very effective way to speed up your process when you're coding. So again, let's go with another function. Sorry, my keyboard just keeps writing 2 O's. Export function, and let's just say sum destructured. Did I spell that right? Let's see. Okay, sum destructured, and we'll just set here. Cool. So in our destructured sum, we're just gonna put 2 different values that are here. So we'll do n1, n2. Great. So in n1, n2, we'll just set another console log. just to log another message, just to show that this is something's working. Or let's say testing, 1, 2, 3. Cool. So now in this instance, let's just return. Let's return N1 plus N2. And let's just format our code, make things look nice. Again, so you'll see here with our play button, it suddenly appears and it's ready to go. Let's test this out. So we'll see that we're given an array to go and fill out. And let's just say we want to go with, let's go, actually. So we say N1, and N1 we have our value, let's say our value is 3, and then we have N2, N2, and our value here would be 4. So let's run and see what we get. So cool. Testing, 1, 2, 3, our response is there, and we returned 7, right? So we're returning the sum destructured. So there's lots of different formats that you can go and use in testing your code. And then of course, we can click to go to this line of our code in our backend file that we have for a module. And we'll see that it's there. Awesome. So there's tons of different ways for you to test out these features. This feature as well, you can combine it with all your different APIs that are already built into Velo. If you're testing a third-party integration or third-party API from the backend, let's say you install something from NPM, or you're using Wix Fetch to then also fetch results from, let's say, a fantasy football API or something like that, and you want to fetch any type of results from something like that, you'll use the functional testing feature as well with that from the backend. And yeah, that's pretty much what the feature entails of. Remember those considerations that we did go over as well, and I'll bring back up that slide for you. So again, you can only test the functions located in JavaScript and JSW files. When testing the code, remember if you're testing code from the backend that has to do with your database, if you're using Wix data to query through, just like how we did with the cars example, your data will be from the sandbox version of your database. And on top of that, this isn't really much different from what you see on when you turn on preview mode and look at the developer console that's available for you, either from your browser or from Velo. But this just maximizes your workflow. So you're able to actually input those different parameters like we saw. You're also able to run your code here and test it out. So this is the functional testing feature. This is definitely something that the community has been talking about for a long time. And you see that Velo, again, has delivered something that the community definitely wants to increase their velocity as they're building with this platform. So definitely open to answering some more questions here. And let's check out what the Q&A looks like as well. I see that Meredith was in there answering some questions for us. And let me check out our QA tool. For some reason, it's not opening. Let's see. I think if I stop sharing my screen, that might be the reason why I don't see it. Okay, here we go. And I'll come back up and I'll put the considerations on the screen for you guys. So someone asked, what basic coding knowledge is required? So as basic, I guess it's more of a general question, but basic coding in this sense, you don't have to be the most advanced coder to use the functional testing feature. As long as you know how to test code simply, even with the examples we showed with console log, there's no debugger, but console log is just a really easy way for you to test out some functions. So definitely check out some documentation of how to log. And then someone also asked, will there be a webinar on Wix data aggregation? Definitely a good idea. We'll definitely have a conversation about what our other upcoming webinars are, but there's definitely a lot in the pipeline as well. Let's see. Look back at the chat. And I'll put up our slides. Chat is saying, is there a way to add a breakpoint for the dev console except for adding debugger? So there's no breakpoints here. There's no breakpoints here, but it would automatically be, that would automatically be added from the play button as you create different export functions. But there are no breakpoints at the moment. Someone also asked, my site was built on the older version, but has since been updated to the new Wix editor and provides this functional testing for the backend file. What user role does this code function under? You should be able to use this function, this feature under like your admin roles and most of your roles that have editing rights for your code. I don't see why not. Mohammed, definitely love to answer your question. In what way would you like to see some examples of usage besides the ones that we showed? ES6 error functions are actually available as well with Wix. Oh, I'm sorry, I did not see that you guys wanted the screen to be a bit bigger. So actually, I can go back and show you what some of those examples do look like again. Just bear with me for a moment. Sorry about that. So again, this is just a bigger view of things. I know that my window is definitely crunched down a bit. So this is just a very simple, these are just 3 very simple functions to go over as well. But I can also write out another one. So say export function. Let's say sum spread params. Okay. So to return params dot reduce. Okay, and then let's do another. Spelled that wrong. Like, what is that about? So now for this instance here, we're just going to see it's a spread. It's going to be using the spread operator. And we're going to click the play button. And let me know if this is too small as well. Let me go back to the chat here. Cool. So we'll just put in some values into this array. 2, 4, 5. Let's just look at that. And we'll run our function. And we'll see that we're able to add all of our different values together inside of our from our function here. So in this, we can always clear out. And if we wanted to add another message or another log that will bring us back to that code, you just go back here. You just close out all these different tabs we have. Go back to 8 module. So you see all these different testing tabs have been opened. A module, we have our params here. And if I wanted to add something for console log, and I wanted to leave a message for myself. Sorry, my keyboard again. Hello. me test this out. We'll run, and it'll bring us straight to our line where we left our console log. Great. What about async functions? Do they get back a promise once it's resolved? Yes, with async functions, you will get the promise once it's resolved as well. Is this help with features provided in the Velo forum or Wix help? Special section in the Wix forum. I do not know if this was released on the forum as of yet. Definitely expect some more documentation to be there. If you go on the official website, velo.com, wix.com/velo, and you go to the features page, there's actually a blurb about the functional testing feature there. But I don't believe there's any official documentation as of yet. Do we have any other questions for today? Definitely be happy to answer. It looks like for some reason my QA tool doesn't keep letting me open up as I have the screen shared. So Guy asked whether he wants to know whether or not he needs to add debugger to the code. You will not have to add debugger to your code. You'll be able to just get started right away with the same way that I showed you with this functional testing feature. And async functions work the same exact way with this as well. If you don't know how to code, will this be easy? That's a good question. So it's definitely required for you to have some knowledge when you're coding. And Velo by Wix actually does have lots of examples on our example page. If you don't mind sending that link to our examples, Meredith, that they can see. And the Velo examples page will show you examples from beginner to advanced. And JavaScript has plenty of different resources across the web to show you how to go from beginner to advanced code. Mm-hmm. Is there a way to get the content manager to be printed? So you can actually test that similar to what we did as well. It's just all about the logic that you have. So let's say if we go back and I'll share my screen once more. I believe this one's it, yep. So we go back to our get premium brands function that's here. It all depends on the logic that you have here with in your function for when you're using Wix data and the query function. If you're looking to print out certain things from your collections that you do have, make sure you use Wix data in the query function as well, and select the name of that collection. So for this case, for this instance, we use cars, right? So, and I have another function here just to find the cars that have are set to true from that Boolean field called is premium. So if I go back to cars, right, I can even filter here real quick. I can add a new filter, contains, actually, let's see. We'll go to is premium, is true. We'll add our filter real quick. And this isn't a filter that's going to affect your code. It's just for what we see visually. We'll see that we only get these 5 results for Volvo, Audi, BMW, Mercedes, Nissan. So we've done this exact same type of function just in code. And as you test it out, you'll be able to run this. It will go through the logic and let us print out what's inside of our code. So if you wanted to go then connect this to a UI element and export this to your front end, connect it to a UI element, all you'll have to do is just actually use that same value, whatever variable you set it as, and it will actually take up that text field as you use the .text property with that text UI element. Cool. So it doesn't look like we have any other questions. So if you do have any other questions, again, just remember you can reach out to me or to Meredith on LinkedIn, Twitter. If you have any questions about the functional testing feature, is some documentation. There is some a blurb on our Velo official website as well about functional testing, and expect to see some more things about it. So go ahead, give it a try, explore this feature. This is definitely here to have the developers in mind at all times. Would definitely love to hear your feedback on the feature and what else you would like out of it as well. So go ahead and feel free to reach out to us about it. And I hope that everybody enjoys the rest of their day and get going with this functional testing. And somebody did ask, actually, how stable is the new feature before we go? How stable is the new feature to install Velo? It's stable. Velo is completely free as well, and everybody should have it right now. So, yeah. Cool. Looks like we're getting some even more questions now, so I don't mind staying on for a little bit longer. Someone asked why functions in JSW file in backend has 14 seconds limit of running. Don't know why that's a 14 seconds limit of running. I've never come across that type of error before. Cool. And even if you're not as techie, Sharon, there's so many examples that you can follow, and you'll be able to pick yourself up to speed at your own pace as you follow the examples. Look out for our webinars. This will definitely be on YouTube later for you to go check out. And just with code, it's just trial and error. And with that, remember, these features already come packed with Velo, so give it a try and enjoy the rest of your day.